The emerald canopy of Kepler 186f stretched endlessly above Olivia Reed as she examined the bioluminescent fungi growing along the massive tree trunks. Her research expedition had gone terribly wrong when their ship's navigation system malfunctioned, forcing an emergency landing on this unexplored section of the planet. Now, 3 weeks later, she was the only survivor, armed with just her botanical knowledge and basic survival training. The alien forest pulsed with life. Strange, six-legged creatures scurried through the underbrush, while floating spores drifted lazily through shafts of purple-tinged sunlight. Olivia carefully documented everything in her tablet, clinging to her scientific routine as a way to maintain sanity in this beautiful but dangerous world. A thunderous crack split the air. Olivia froze, her hand instinctively gripping the makeshift spear she'd fashioned from ship debris. The sound came again, closer this time, accompanied by the groaning of massive trees being pushed aside. Whatever was approaching was big. She should run. Every survival instinct screamed at her to flee. But curiosity, the same drive that had made her volunteer for this expedition, kept her rooted in place. The vegetation parted, and Olivia's breath caught in her throat. A towering figure emerged, easily 10 feet tall, with skin the color of polished bronze that seemed to shift and shimmer in the dappled light. The alien was distinctly female, with powerful muscles rippling beneath her skin and long, dark hair adorned with intricate braids and what appeared to be crystalline beads. Her eyes were the most striking feature, large, almond-shaped, and an impossible shade of violet that seemed to glow from within. The alien warrior carried what looked like a spear, though its design was far more sophisticated than Olivia's crude weapon. She wore armor made of some iridescent material that covered vital areas while leaving plenty of room for movement. Various tools and pouches hung from a belt at her waist. Time seemed to stretch as they regarded each other. Olivia's scientific mind raced, cataloging details even as her survival instincts continued to scream. The alien's expression was unreadable, but her posture reminded Olivia of a predator assessing potential prey. "You are far from your kind, small one." The alien's voice was deep and melodious, the words perfectly formed despite coming from clearly non-human vocal cords. Olivia blinked in surprise, she hadn't expected the alien to speak English. "I'm stranded," Olivia replied, keeping her voice steady despite her racing heart. "My ship crashed. I'm a botanist, a scientist who studies plants." The alien's head tilted slightly. "I am Naira, of no tribe." There was a note of defiance in her voice at those last words. "You study the forest's gifts?" Olivia nodded, gesturing to her tablet. "I document them, try to understand them. This world has plant species unlike anything we've ever seen." Her professional enthusiasm momentarily overcame her fear. The bioluminescent properties alone could revolutionize our understanding of photosynthesis. A sound emerged from Naira that might have been a laugh. "You face death in this forest, yet you speak of learning?" She stepped closer, her movement fluid despite her massive size. "Perhaps you are not as fragile as you appear." "I've survived this long," Olivia pointed out, though she had to admit it had been more luck than skill. "But I won't pretend I couldn't use help. This world clearly has dangers I don't understand." Naira was silent for a long moment, her violet eyes studying Olivia with an intensity that made her want to squirm. Finally, the warrior spoke. "My people would say I should leave you to the forest's judgment. They believe in the natural order, in strength proving itself worthy of survival." Her lips curved in what might have been a smile, revealing teeth that gleamed like mother of pearl. "But I have never been good at following their rules." Relief flooded through Olivia, though she tried not to show it too obviously. "Thank you. I promise I won't be a burden. I can learn, adapt." "Yes," Naira said, "you will learn, or you will die. There is no middle path in this forest." She turned and began walking, her long strides effortlessly parting the vegetation. "Come, small scientist. Night approaches, and the darkness holds hunters even I do not wish to face. Olivia hurried to keep up with the warrior's pace, her mind buzzing with questions. Why had Naira been cast out by her people? What were the rules she refused to follow? And most importantly, what sort of partnership could form between a human scientist and an alien warrior who seemed to embody the wild spirit of this untamed world? As they walked, Olivia noticed how the forest seemed to respond to Naira's presence. Creatures scattered at their approach, and even the vegetation appeared to bow away from her path. The warrior moved with a primal grace that spoke of complete harmony with her environment, despite, or perhaps because of, her rejection of her people's rigid rules. The purple sun was setting by the time they reached what appeared to be Naira's camp. It was a natural cave in the side of a cliff face, cleverly concealed by hanging vines. Inside, Olivia found evidence of both sophisticated technology and primitive survival tools. Crystalline lights cast a soft glow over weapons, containers, and what appeared to be scientific instruments of alien design. You study things too, Olivia realized, noting the careful organization of collected specimens and detailed markings on what looked like star charts. Knowledge is strength, Naira replied, setting down her spear. My people forget this in their obsession with physical power and ancient traditions. They fear what they cannot control, cannot understand. She turned those intense violet eyes on Olivia again. Perhaps that is why I choose to help you, small scientist. We are both seekers of understanding in our own ways. As night fell over the alien forest, Olivia found herself in the extraordinary position of sharing a meal with a 10-foot-tall alien warrior who defied her society's conventions. The food was strange but not unpleasant, and Naira proved to be a fascinating conversationalist, equally interested in learning about Earth as she was in sharing knowledge of her world. Tomorrow, Naira said as they finished eating, I will begin teaching you our ways of survival. You must learn quickly, the forest is not patient with those who hesitate. Olivia nodded, already feeling the weight of tomorrow's challenges. But as she settled down to sleep, watching Naira's silhouette against the cave entrance as the warrior kept watch, she felt something she hadn't since the crash, hope. Whatever trials awaited them, she had found an ally who understood what it meant to be different, to seek knowledge despite the consequences. Together, perhaps they could forge a path neither of their peoples had imagined possible. Dawn broke over the alien forest in shades of lavender and gold, its light filtering through the crystalline leaves that canopied the world above. Olivia woke to find Naira already preparing what appeared to be some kind of equipment, ropes made from shimmering fibers, containers of various sizes, and what looked like detection instruments of alien design. Your first lesson begins now, Naira announced, her violet eyes gleaming with something that might have been amusement. The forest provides everything we need, but it demands respect and skill in return. Olivia quickly learned that Naira's teaching style was as direct as her personality. The warrior showed no patience for hesitation or self-doubt, but her instructions were clear and precise. They spent the morning learning to identify safe water sources, with Naira explaining how certain bioluminescent moss only grew near pure springs. Your scientific mind serves you well, Naira observed as Olivia carefully documented the correlation between water purity and moss luminescence patterns. You see patterns where others might see only chaos. That's what science is, really, Olivia replied, carefully collecting a sample. Finding the underlying patterns in nature. Though I have to admit, your world challenges everything we thought we knew about biological systems. Naira made that rumbling sound that Olivia was beginning to recognize as laughter. Perhaps that is why my people fear knowledge seekers like us. Understanding brings change, and change threatens their precious order. As they worked, Naira began to share more about her society. Her people, the Kyrians, lived in strictly organized communities governed by ancient traditions. Physical prowess was valued above all, but it had to be expressed in carefully prescribed ways. Innovation was discouraged, and those who questioned the old ways were seen as dangerous. I was to be a warrior guardian, Naira explained as they tracked the path of what she called sunflowers, mobile plants that followed not just light but specific mineral deposits. But I asked too many questions. Why do we hunt only with traditional weapons when we have the technology for better tools? Why do we ignore the forest's secrets when they could make us stronger? Such questions made me dangerous in their eyes. Olivia watched as the warrior efficiently harvested several sunflowers, her massive hands surprisingly gentle with the delicate specimens. They exiled you for being curious? They exiled me for being unpredictable, Naira corrected. In their eyes, a warrior who thinks too much cannot be trusted to follow orders without question. She stored the flowers in a crystalline container. These will help heal wounds and fight infection. Another secret they ignore in favor of traditional medicines. The day progressed with Naira teaching Olivia the basics of survival, how to move quietly through the underbrush, how to recognize signs of dangerous predators, which plants could be eaten and which would kill with a single touch. The warrior was a demanding teacher, but Olivia found herself rising to the challenge, driven by both necessity and genuine fascination. Your size is both weakness and strength, Naira observed as she watched Olivia navigate a particularly dense section of forest. You can move through spaces I cannot, see details I might miss. Learn to use these advantages. Late in the afternoon, they encountered one of the forest's many dangers, a pack of six-legged predators that Naira called shadow stalkers. Instead of running, the warrior used the encounter as another teaching moment, showing Olivia how to use the terrain and local plant life to their advantage. Watch, Naira commanded, deliberately triggering a cluster of pressure-sensitive fungi. A cloud of spores erupted, creating a natural smoke screen that confused the predator's keen senses. The forest itself can be your weapon, if you understand its ways. By sunset, Olivia was exhausted but exhilarated. Her tablet was full of new observations, not just about the local flora but about Kyrian culture and survival techniques. As they made their way back to the cave, she noticed Naira watching her with an unreadable expression. You absorb knowledge like a dry root absorbs water, the warrior commented. Yet you do not simply accept what I tell you, you question, you seek to understand the deeper patterns. That's what humans do, Olivia said, carefully picking her way over a fallen log covered in bioluminescent fungi. At least, some of us. We're curious by nature. It's gotten us into trouble plenty of times, but it's also how we've survived and grown. Perhaps our peoples are not so different, Naira mused. We both carry the capacity for rigid thinking and for innovation. The balance between tradition and progress, between caution and curiosity, this is a struggle that crosses the stars themselves. Back at the cave, as they prepared their evening meal, Olivia found herself studying her alien companion. Naira's massive frame and warrior bearing could have been intimidating, but there was also a grace to her movements, an intelligence in her violet eyes that spoke of a mind as sharp as any scientific instrument. Tomorrow will be harder, Naira warned as they ate. You must learn to hunt, to defend yourself. The forest respects only those who can match its strength with their own. I'm ready, Olivia replied, surprised to find she meant it. In just one day, she had learned more about survival, both physical and intellectual, than she had in years of academic study. Though I doubt I'll ever match your strength. Strength takes many forms, small scientist, Naira said, her iridescent teeth gleaming in the crystal light. The strongest tree is not always the largest, but the one that knows how to bend without breaking. As night settled over the forest, bringing with it a chorus of alien sounds and the soft glow of bioluminescent life, Olivia reflected on how quickly her situation had changed. She had come to this world seeking botanical discoveries, but she was finding something far more valuable, a partnership that challenged everything both their species thought they knew about strength, wisdom, and the cost of breaking with tradition. The third day began with an unsettling discovery. Naira found massive claw marks scored deep into the bark of several trees near their cave, far larger than anything Olivia had seen before. The warrior's violet eyes narrowed as she examined the marks, her usual confidence replaced by focused concern. "These are fresh," Naira said, running her fingers along the gouges. "Made by a shadow maw. I haven't seen one this close to the highlands in many cycles." She straightened to her full height, scanning the surrounding forest. "They are apex predators, intelligent and patient. This one is hunting us." Olivia felt her throat go dry. "How dangerous are we talking about?" "They can kill a fully armed Kyrian warrior patrol," Naira replied grimly. "Their hide deflects most weapons, and they hunt using strategy rather than just instinct." She turned to Olivia, her expression intense. "Today's lesson has changed. We are no longer the hunters, we are the hunted." They spent the morning preparing defenses and gathering supplies. Naira showed Olivia how to craft specialized traps using the forest's natural resources, pressure-sensitive spores, acidic sap, and crystalline vines that could momentarily blind with reflected light. The warrior's knowledge went far beyond traditional hunting techniques, incorporating an understanding of chemistry and physics that surprised Olivia. "You're an engineer as much as a warrior," Olivia observed as she watched Naira modify one of her weapons with a compound extracted from local plants. "Your people really can't see the value in this." "They see it as corruption," Naira replied, her tone bitter. "To them, true strength comes from tradition alone. Innovation is seen as a sign of weakness, an admission that the old ways are not enough." She tested the weapon's balance. They would rather die following ancient rules than survive by embracing new knowledge. A distant roar interrupted their conversation, causing the ground to tremble. Olivia's scientific curiosity warred with primal fear as the sound echoed through the forest. Naira quickly pulled her into the dense undergrowth, her massive frame somehow moving silently despite her size. "It's testing us," Naira whispered, her violet eyes scanning the canopy above. Shadowmaws play with their prey, learning their patterns and weaknesses before striking. "We must be unpredictable." They spent the next few hours in a deadly game of cat and mouse. The shadowmaw would reveal itself briefly, a glimpse of iridescent scales, the flash of crystalline claws, a deep rumbling growl, then vanish again. Naira led them through the forest in an erratic pattern, sometimes doubling back, other times using the canopy to travel above ground. Olivia found herself drawing on everything she'd learned about the forest's ecosystem. She noticed patterns in the local wildlife's behavior that indicated the predator's presence, used her knowledge of the plants to identify safe paths and potential hazards. Her smaller size allowed her to spot details that Naira might miss, creating a partnership that balanced their different strengths. "There," Olivia whispered, pointing to a subtle disturbance in the forest floor. "The bioluminescent spores are dimmer in that direction. Something large passed through recently, disrupting their natural rhythm." Naira nodded approvingly. "Good. You're learning to read the forest's signs. The shadowmaw is herding us toward the crystal cliffs. It thinks we'll be trapped there. But we won't be." "No," Naira's lips curved in a fierce smile. "Because we understand something it doesn't, the relationship between the crystalline formations and the local magnetic fields. Your observations of the sunflowers gave me an idea." They reached the cliffs as the alien sun began to set, its purple light creating deep shadows that seemed to move with a life of their own. The shadowmaw finally revealed itself fully, a massive creature that combined the worst aspects of Earth's most dangerous predators. Its scales shifted color like an octopus, while its multiple limbs moved with feline grace. Its head housed several pairs of eyes that gleamed with unsettling intelligence. "Now," Naira commanded as the creature approached. Olivia triggered the device they'd prepared, a modified version of Naira's scanning equipment. The magnetic pulse it released caused the surrounding crystal formations to resonate at a specific frequency. The shadowmaw reeled, its color-shifting ability disrupted by the magnetic interference. What followed was a battle that Olivia would never forget. Naira moved with incredible speed and power, her modified weapons striking at the creature's now vulnerable points. Olivia coordinated their trap network, using her tablet to time the magnetic pulses with Naira's attacks. The Shadowmaw fought with terrifying intelligence, adapting to their tactics and nearly catching Naira with a surprise attack from above. The turning point came when Olivia noticed the creature's movements becoming more erratic near certain crystal formations. She quickly analyzed the pattern and realized the magnetic fields were affecting its sensory organs. Working together, she and Naira herded it into a natural amphitheater of crystals, where the overlapping fields finally overwhelmed its hunting abilities. The Shadowmaw retreated, leaving behind scattered scales and deep gouges in the crystal formations. Naira stood watching it go, her massive frame bearing several minor wounds but her violet eyes shining with triumph. That, she said, turning to Olivia, was true strength. Not just physical power, but the combination of knowledge, adaptation, and cooperation. My people would have faced it with traditional weapons alone and died honorably. Instead, we used our minds as well as our bodies and survived. Olivia nodded, still shaking with adrenaline but feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. We make a good team. Your warrior skills and innovative thinking, my scientific knowledge. Yes, Naira agreed, her expression softening. Perhaps this is what both our peoples forget: true strength comes not from rejecting difference, but from combining diverse abilities and perspectives. She reached out, her massive hand gentle as she helped Olivia climb over a fallen crystal formation. Come. We should tend to our wounds and prepare for tomorrow. The forest has many more lessons to teach us. As they made their way back to their cave, Olivia realized something had shifted between them. They were no longer just teacher and student, or even just allies of convenience. They had become something new, a partnership that transcended their physical differences and cultural expectations. In facing death together, they had discovered a truth that both their peoples needed to learn: that strength comes in many forms, and the greatest power lies in the ability to combine them in new and unexpected ways. The encounter with the Shadowmaw had changed something fundamental in their relationship, but it had also drawn unwanted attention. Dawn brought the sound of horn calls echoing through the forest, deep, resonant tones that made the crystalline vegetation vibrate in sympathy. Naira's reaction was immediate, her violet eyes narrowing as she grabbed her weapons. "The tribal guard," she said, her voice tight with tension. "They must have detected the magnetic disturbance from our battle. They come to investigate, and to judge." Olivia quickly gathered her research materials, including the data about their successful defense against the Shadowmaw. "Maybe we can show them the value of combining traditional combat with scientific knowledge." "They will not listen," Naira replied, though her expression suggested she appreciated Olivia's optimism. "But they will find us whether we hide or not. Better to meet them on our terms." They moved to a clearing that Naira selected carefully, one with plenty of escape routes and natural advantages they could use if needed. It wasn't long before the tribal guard appeared, and Olivia had to suppress a gasp. A dozen Kyrian warriors emerged from the forest, each nearly as tall as Naira but wearing elaborate ceremonial armor that gleamed with embedded crystals. Their leader, distinguished by a cape made of iridescent scales, stepped forward. "Naira of the Outcast Path," the leader's voice boomed across the clearing. "You dare to practice forbidden arts in our territory? And worse, you corrupt an alien with our world's secrets?" "Greetings, War Chief Corvin," Naira replied, her tone carefully neutral. "I practice the art of survival, using all knowledge available to me. As is my right as one who walks the outcast path." "Your right ends where our laws begin," Corvin growled. "We detected the use of technology combined with sacred crystal formations. You twist our world's gifts into unnatural weapons." Olivia stepped forward, unable to stay silent. "With respect, War Chief, what we did saved lives. The Shadowmaw would have killed anyone it encountered, including your own warriors." The assembled Kyrians muttered among themselves at her intervention. Corvin's eyes narrowed. The alien speaks as if it has authority here. Naira, you allow this? I allow truth to be spoken, Naira replied, moving slightly to stand beside Olivia rather than in front of her. Olivia is a scientist, a seeker of knowledge. Together, we defeated a shadow maw by combining her understanding of natural laws with my combat skills. Impossible, one of the other guards scoffed. No one has survived a shadow maw encounter in generations. Our strongest warriors fall before them. Because you refuse to adapt, Naira challenged. You cling to methods that no longer serve, ignoring the gifts of knowledge that surround you. The forest itself teaches us, if we are willing to learn. Olivia activated her tablet, projecting a holographic display of their battle data. Look at this, we found that the shadow maw's camouflage abilities are linked to its sensitivity to magnetic fields. By understanding this, we could. Enough! Corvin roared. This is the corruption we feared. Technology, experimentation, questioning the old ways. He drew his weapon, a massive crystalline blade. Naira, you were exiled for your dangerous ideas, but now you actively spread them. This cannot be allowed to continue. Then challenge me properly, Naira replied, her voice ringing with authority. Invoke the right of trial by innovation. Let me prove that new ideas don't weaken us, they make us stronger. A shocked silence fell over the clearing. Olivia glanced at Naira, seeing fierce determination in her companion's violet eyes. The right of trial by innovation was clearly significant, though Naira hadn't mentioned it before. Corvin seemed taken aback. That right hasn't been invoked in centuries. It is nearly forgotten. But still valid under tribal law, Naira pressed. Allow me to demonstrate a better way, not to destroy tradition, but to enhance it. If I fail, I will submit to tribal judgment. The Kyrian warriors conferred among themselves in low voices. Finally, Corvin nodded grudgingly. The trial is accepted. 3 challenges will be set, one of combat, one of survival, and one of wisdom. You will face our champions using only your new methods. I accept, Naira said firmly. But Olivia must be allowed to assist me. Our strength comes from cooperation, not isolation. This caused more murmuring among the warriors, but eventually Corvin agreed. So be it. The trials begin at next dawn. Until then, you are both under guard. If you attempt to flee, the right of trial is forfeit. As the Kyrian warriors established positions around the clearing, Olivia turned to Naira. Are you sure about this? We're risking everything on their sense of tradition. Sometimes, Naira replied softly, you must use the rigid nature of tradition against itself. They cannot deny the right of trial without undermining their own authority. She smiled slightly. Besides, small scientist, haven't we already proven that our combined strengths can overcome any challenge? Olivia nodded, already beginning to plan how they could adapt their various innovations for the trials. What exactly are we allowed to use? Anything we can create or gather between now and dawn, Naira explained. They expect us to fail because they believe technology and natural law are opposed to each other. We will show them how wrong they are. As night fell over the forest, Olivia and Naira worked tirelessly, preparing for the trials ahead. They modified weapons, synthesized compounds from local plants, and developed strategies that would showcase the power of combining traditional skills with scientific innovation. The watching warriors regarded them with a mixture of suspicion and curiosity. Whatever happens tomorrow, Naira said as they finalized their preparations, you have already proven something important to me, Olivia. You've shown that strength can take many forms, and that the bravest path is often the one that bridges different worlds. Olivia looked up at her towering companion, seeing past the fierce warrior exterior to the revolutionary thinker within. We'll show them, Naira. Not just that innovation works, but that it makes their traditions even more powerful. As they settled in for a few hours of rest before dawn, Olivia reflected on how far they'd come from their first meeting. Tomorrow would test everything they'd learned together, not just about survival, but about the true meaning of strength, wisdom, and progress. The trials ahead would either bridge the gap between tradition and innovation or condemn them both to exile. Either way, they would face it together, a human scientist and an alien warrior united in their belief that the greatest power comes from embracing change rather than fearing it. The alien sun rose in a blaze of purple light, illuminating the gathering of Kyrian warriors in the ceremonial clearing. Hundreds had arrived during the night, drawn by news of the trial by innovation. They formed a massive circle around the challenge arena, their crystalline armor creating rainbow patterns as they moved. Naira and Olivia stood ready, their modified weapons and devices prepared after a night of intense work. Warchief Corvin stepped forward, his voice carrying across the assembled crowd. The trials begin now. First, combat. Naira will face our champion in single combat. Second, survival. Both challengers must navigate the crystal maze. Finally, wisdom. They must solve the riddle of the Ancient Ones. His eyes narrowed. Use whatever methods you choose, but remember, victory without honor is meaningless. The combat trial began immediately. The Kyrian champion was enormous, even by their standards, wielding a traditional crystal blade with obvious mastery. But Naira had prepared for this. Her weapon, modified with Olivia's help, incorporated sonic resonators that could weaken crystalline structures, including her opponent's blade. Watch closely, Naira called out to the assembled warriors as she activated the device. This is not a rejection of our ways, but an evolution of them. The fight was spectacular. Naira moved with her usual grace, but now every clash of their weapons caused her opponent's blade to vibrate at its resonant frequency. Slowly but surely, cracks appeared in the crystal sword. The crowd murmured in amazement as Naira demonstrated how this weakness could be prevented by adjusting the blade's internal structure, a discovery she and Olivia had made while studying the forest's crystal formations. Our traditions need not be fragile, Naira declared as she disarmed her opponent. They can be strengthened by understanding the natural laws that govern them. The second trial proved even more challenging. The crystal maze was a natural labyrinth of massive crystal formations, filled with deadly energy discharges and unstable gravitational fields. Traditionally, warriors navigated it through memorized safe paths passed down through generations. Instead, Olivia used her tablet to map the magnetic field fluctuations while Naira applied her knowledge of crystal growth patterns. Together, they discovered that the dangerous energy discharges followed predictable cycles tied to the planet's magnetic field. The ancients who first mapped this maze, Olivia explained to the watching crowd as they progressed, they must have understood these patterns too. They built their traditions on natural laws, they just didn't pass down the underlying knowledge. They completed the maze in record time, using their understanding to forge new safe paths that even the tribe's eldest members hadn't known existed. The watching warriors' hostility began to shift to fascination. The final trial, the riddle of the Ancient Ones, proved to be the most revealing. The riddle was carved into a massive crystal monolith in an ancient script that even the tribe's scholars struggled to fully translate. But Olivia noticed something about the way the crystal structure affected the text's appearance at different angles. Naira, she said excitedly, these aren't just words, they're frequency patterns. The ancients encoded additional information in the crystal structure itself. Working together, they discovered that the riddle wasn't just a test of traditional knowledge, it was instructions for combining natural resources with advanced technology, left behind by the tribe's ancestors. The solution required both Naira's deep understanding of Kyrian tradition and Olivia's scientific expertise. As they presented their findings, Warchief Corvin's expression shifted from skepticism to grudging respect. Our ancestors, he said slowly, they were not just warriors. They were also scientists. They were both, Naira replied firmly. As we all can be. Strength is not diminished by knowledge, it is multiplied by it. The revelation sparked intense discussion among the assembled warriors. Many of the younger ones approached Olivia with questions about her methods, while older warriors engaged Naira in deep discussions about how to integrate new knowledge with ancient practices. As the sun began to set, Corvin called for silence. "The trials are complete," he announced. "Naira and Olivia have not only succeeded in their challenges, they have revealed truths about our own history that we had forgotten." He turned to face them directly. "The exile is ended. But more than that, the Council of Elders has decreed the creation of a new role, Guardians of Innovation." Naira's violet eyes widened in surprise. Corvin continued, "You will lead this new order, teaching others to balance tradition with progress, strength with wisdom. And you," he turned to Olivia, "will be welcomed as an honored ally of the Kyrian people, free to continue your research here." The gathering erupted in celebration. Warriors who had looked at them with suspicion now came forward to share knowledge and ask questions. Young Kyrians gathered around Olivia, fascinated by her tablet and scientific instruments, while respected elders sought out Naira's insights on combining traditional combat with new techniques. Later, as the celebration continued under the stars, Naira and Olivia stood at the edge of the clearing. "So," Olivia said with a smile, "Guardian of Innovation? Quite a change from exile." "Change is what we do best, small scientist," Naira replied, her violet eyes soft as she looked down at her companion. "You taught me that strength can be found in unexpected places, and that the bravest path is often the one that hasn't been taken before." "We taught each other," Olivia corrected. "And now we can teach others." She gestured to where young warriors were already experimenting with combining crystal technology with traditional weapons. "Your people aren't losing their traditions, they're strengthening them by understanding the principles behind them." Naira nodded, watching as her people embraced a new way of thinking while holding on to the core of their cultural identity. "Perhaps this is what both our peoples needed to learn, that true progress doesn't mean abandoning the past, but building upon it with wisdom and understanding." As the alien moons rose over the forest, casting their mysterious light over the celebration, Olivia reflected on how far they'd come. She had arrived on this world as a stranded scientist, expecting to find only botanical specimens. Instead, she had found a partnership that transcended species and cultures, helping to bridge the gap between tradition and innovation, between strength and wisdom. And as she watched Naira begin to teach a group of young warriors about the relationship between crystal structures and energy fields, Olivia knew that their story was far from over. This was just the beginning of a new chapter, not just for them, but for both their peoples. Together, they had proven that the greatest discoveries come not from rejecting difference, but from embracing it, and that the strongest bonds are forged when diverse worlds come together in pursuit of understanding.